kind of like took us under their wing and said, hey, there's a place you're going to get some support. And then we were put in positions to do advocacy work. And so that's what we started doing. That's how we ended up here. It's gotten recognized on national levels. We've got connected with the leaders of these other organizations because there was nothing going on in our area. And that's how I ended up here. A guy down in Georgia that leads up their organization called me up. He goes, Google your state cancer plan. So I did. And I went to cross the border first. I'm a Jayhawk, but don't tell anybody. And what I found was there wasn't anything going on. And I think that's what I've learned. There's no one from prostate cancer groups that came here before we did. And so let me get into some numbers here. So I intend not to be like a politician and have anything inaccurate. So this is not going to be like anything you see on TV. So we vetted this as best we could. So thank you. So what is going on? What is the current state? About 1 in 7 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. And African American men, it's 1 out of 5. It's not known why. There's studies that have been done. We haven't really heard anything conclusive, but those are the facts. And I think, to be honest, I think these numbers are low. As when we get up and we get a chance to speak at like these different places and events, we get invited, all sorts of things. I usually trick it because guys don't talk about it, and that's not okay. We're trying to change it. So I'm like, how many of you have had to deal with it? And the raise of hands. And if it's in the African American community, it's like it feels like half of the room. It's just it's a rampant issue. Is the second leading cause of cancer death in men in the USA. It is the third leading cause of new cancer cases in Missouri, including both women and men. So it's right there. It is the leading cause of new cancer cases in Missouri for men. It is the third leading cause of cancer deaths in Missouri for males. And African American men have double the chance of dying from it. And it's not just numbers. I'm telling you, I know these guys by name now. I mean, they're like my friends. And so we're going to get into this, but this is something that the timing of this. So we put all these slides together and all this stuff. But I can't imagine you guys didn't see the stories on the news. It hit nearly every news channel. The government issued this report this week, and it said that over the last decade, there's been a 72% increase in the advanced stage prostate cancer diagnosis in the United States. So we're heading in the wrong direction, is what the point is. And here's what I think is sort of behind that. And any questions? I encourage interaction. 1991 is when they started this PSA testing. That's our test, and it ain't the greatest thing in the world. But that's what we got. And in 2008, there's a governing body, a USPSFT. I might have the letters backwards a couple times in there. Apologies. They came out and they said, don't screen guys over 75 in 2008. And my buddies Herb and George last night asked me to remind you that they wouldn't be here today because Herb's 88 and George is 72, and those guys just wouldn't have got caught. And then, make matters worse, in 2012, they issued a grade D rating, meaning no screening. And so as you can see, well, guess what happens if you don't screen? And there's no symptoms. I had no symptoms myself. I think some guys do, but for the most part, I talk to guys, there's virtually no symptoms. You go from being healthy, you get diagnosed, and then the treatments, depending on when it's caught. So if it's caught early, the treatments are not so bad. You can even have it still working, if you know what it is. But if it's caught late, it doesn't. And so basically that's the message when we're talking to guys, is we tell them, look, if you care about it working, or your ladies care about it working, you need to get screened, and you need to stay on top of this. If you don't care about it, then yeah, it's fine, you can skip it. But basically, that's what it boils down to. And then recently, the same group re-examined this study, and it's very wordy, and it's on our website if you want to read it. It's very wordy, but it basically boils down to, and that's one of the stories that got published, that it was based on flawed data, was why they said stop screening. And I want to read this to you. It's a doctor on Fox News. Resulted in less testing, which resulted in reduction in detections of intermediate and high-risk prostate cancer. This is a huge mistake. This is a curable disease. It's a silent killer. There are no symptoms. So men out there, go out there and get tested and talk to your doctors. Okay. So what we're trying to do is being hindered by all sorts of missing information or confusing information. So there's nothing being really issued anywhere as far as encouraging people to get tested. We are doing our little part, but we're like, we're little. We're just a little tiny thing, our guys are. The big organizations like the AUA, and I think they're doctors, they believe in science. So these guys strongly recommend, they strongly disagree with this. And so what an awkward position we're put in. And then somewhere in the middle you've got ACS, and they've got some informed discussion, is what they say, I think it is. And that's sort of an awkward one, I guess, the discussion thing. And then we've seen documents as recent as this last month coming from the CDC, and it simply said that it recommends against PSA screening. So we're out there trying to tell guys to get checked. We're trying to do it. It's the right thing. But we've got these factors that are making it an uphill battle. And I don't know, I guess I didn't mention to everyone. There was a gentleman down in Georgia. I believe that's right. Here's his take on it. I just want to read it for you. The USPSTF says men should have an informed discussion with their primary physician. Does this mean you should have an informed discussion with your doctors on every disease? For example, do you not have an informed discussion with your doctor on cholesterol unless you know you have a problem? You cannot know if you have a problem until you take a blood test. Same goes for prostate cancer. You cannot have an informed discussion unless you know you may have prostate cancer. You do not know if you have prostate cancer unless you take a PSA test. And just the same story, the 72% story, if you watched Fox News, I don't know if you saw it, I emailed this to Joe, I don't know if I sent it to you, man. It said, American Cancer Society says screen men. It said on Fox News just this week. So there's like, it's all circling around, it's not making sense, and we need help straightening that out.
Sir, do you understand, do you get why it's controversial? Do you get that there's a lot, the PSA test is not great, so the sensitivity and specificity is not great, so you're getting a lot of men who are getting false positives, and then when you get false positives and they get treatment that they didn't need, it's a snowball effect. And so if it was a great test, there'd be no question, but since it's just a poor indicator of prostate cancer, and the ramifications of getting treated can be quite devastating to people. But that's why there's a concern about everyone screening means you're going to have a lot of people who go through treatment who didn't need it. And then that's the concern about why.
Yeah, I totally get it, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So there are, I think in the past, I think this is absolutely the case. I think there was an over-treatment of guys. I think there was, I believe it. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think it's actually kind of gone the other way. So that's when they were getting screened, because to get screened and then maybe have a biopsy is one thing, but to get through the biopsy and then have treatments that would cause problems is another. I don't think there was a whole lot of guys. I think there was a lot of unnecessary biopsies, but I can't imagine that people were really treating guys overly aggressive. There is definitely more awareness, and there's more science and tests today. There's genomic testing, and only about half of our institutions actually employ these. So after you get a PSA test, there's actually additional tests that can be done. that can tell you whether or not you need to have a biopsy. Only about half the organizations actually do them. Why, I don't know. But then in addition to that, after the biopsies now, there's additional tests, genomic tests that can be done that can be very predictive as to what kind of cancer they have and at what ages. And so therefore, much more informed decisions can be made as far as active surveillance and the like. So I buy that in the past, but I don't buy it today, not with the things that are available. And so I don't buy that this recommendation is this task force, this elusive thing, should paralyze us as a society when it's this out of control and headed in the wrong direction. So that's my take on it. This is, and I'm so glad it's here. This is historic. I am proud of it. This is the first time in the state of Missouri that we've had a statement for prostate cancer in our cancer plan. The current plan, if you go look at it, it doesn't have anything. And so this is great. I'm concerned still about this talk, about, talk versus screening. But I also, yeah.
So just along that point, I think in the perfect world, we would want to have a screening where it's black and white and say, you're this age, you get this, and that's that. And we saw this with the breast cancer screening guidelines that got updated last year too. I think we're to a point that there's just so much information out there now to where it's going to be difficult to have a definitive all the time, age 50, you do this. The informed decision making, that's not just prostate cancer, that's many different chronic diseases or diseases in general where you and your doctor in a perfect world really need to weigh the risks of, does, if you get screened for this and it comes back positive, to your point, that could mean this treatment to something that we don't know may or may not have any effect on you over the next 10, 15, 20 years. So I get your point that in a perfect world we would want it to be pretty definitive, but I think you're going to see more of that shared decision-making aspect going forward just because we know so much more and there's just going to be that much more evidence to be like, what's good for you may not be good for me, may not be good for whoever, and it's not easy. I mean, I think easy is not the right word, but I think in general, we all know that there's something that we think about. You ideally wish there was just a cut and dry thing. I don't know that that's always going to be the case.
Yeah, well, I just know that I probably wouldn't be here today.
Exactly.
And so it's incredibly personal, and I know with a lot of our guys, and to know that we're headed in the wrong direction, to know that there's 72% increase in the advanced stages in our country, and to know that these African American men all around us are dying from this. This is not like, because when it goes to advanced stage, there's no cure, right? There's treatments to extend your life, but there's no cure. And I really honestly believe that every man has an inherent right to know if he has cancer in him. What he chooses to do with it, okay, but right now we don't tell him anything. So we can say it's talk versus screening, but we're not actually out there doing anything. And we're trying to change that. And I know our guys, they're behind me right now. I tell you right now.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, Steve, that there are no symptoms. You don't have to have symptoms to find out that you have prostate cancer. That's where my opinion is, where this test is critical, because you may have it and not know it. And if you go for 5 or 10 years, by the time you find out about it, it's too late because it went somewhere else in the body metastasized, went some other organs. So it's very critical, in my opinion, to have something. A PSA is at least something. Same way with ovarian cancer. Nancy knows CA-125 is not a perfect test, but it's a good indicator, and it saved a lot of lives. My wife, for one, CA-125 came back more than 4 times the normal. So we're saying is, all we're saying is, I'm saying is, that it's better than having nothing and not know, and you may have it.
And it's not an obscure cancer. We're talking about the 3rd leading cancer.
Yeah, and we're not
Yeah.
talking about just some like cancer that you have like that you might survive from. We're talking that kind of kills you.
That's right.
That's what we're talking about.
With considering all these controversies, how about we go back to prevention?
There's very little. There's very little on prevention. We definitely want to
Yeah.
promote. There's some things that you can do. There's
Yeah.
lifestyle choices and the likes.
Exactly.
And we always tell all of our guys to stack the deck in your favor, to eat right and exercise and get as healthy as you can. You know, it's an uphill battle. So I just want to, yeah, I know we're going to run short on time. I got one closing comment.
So yeah, just one comment, and then we're gonna move on to Lana on the PPP side.
Yeah, my closing comment is that, you know, we need your help. We're talking about some high risk groups that we're not doing anything for today. You know, we've got African American men that are at a really high risk of this deadly disease, and we've got people with family histories that are not talking about it, and we want to try to change that culturally. With tons of guys that they haven't told, they've gone through all of it, and they haven't told their kids or their moms. It's a cultural issue, and we can get into whys. And then also our veterans. Agent Orange it's like one of the number one issues down at the VA. When Mike has gone down to the VA, and we've gone down there to educate men, you can't believe how many of them coming to us. You just can't believe it. So thank you all for having me as your